All right, let's dive into this. Welcome, everyone, to today's explainer. We're opening up what I like to call the ultimate workplace playbook. And our goal is to decode one of the absolute most vital engines of any successful business. I'm talking about employee motivation. We're going to explore what truly drives people to do their absolute best work, drawing directly from some really fascinating source material that completely breaks down the psychology and the practical strategies of the modern workplace. So if you've ever found yourself wondering why some teams just thrive while others are literally just watching the clock tick down, you are definitely in the right place. So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with why motivation actually matters, look at the big three theories behind it, and then break down both financial and non-financial motivation methods before wrapping up with how to choose the right strategy. Kicking things off with Section 1, Why Motivation Matters, the absolute foundation of business success. Take a second and really think about this fundamental question, right? Why do people work? I mean, your immediate answer is probably, well, for the money. And yeah, for sure, paying for basic necessities is the primary driver. But the source material makes it incredibly clear that it goes so much deeper than that. People also work for job satisfaction, just that sheer feeling of doing a genuinely good job. They work for status, for security, and to fulfill social needs by being part of a community. And when a workplace actually taps into all of these drivers, something really incredible happens. What's really fascinating to me here is the sheer ripple effect motivation has across an entire business. A highly motivated workforce doesn't just work harder, they work smarter. You see increased productivity and output, which obviously means more gets done. But look at the secondary benefits. You get lower absenteeism because people actually want to show up, and reduce labor turnover because they genuinely don't want to leave. You get better quality products, tighter efficiency, and, this is absolutely crucial, a team that treats new challenges and changes as exciting opportunities rather than terrifying threats. Moving right along to Section 2, the big three theories. Think of these as the architects of motivation. You've probably heard of Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. Our source material highlights this to explain exactly how you unlock that intense workforce dedication. It uses this incredibly relatable example. Imagine someone moving from a small village to a massive city. At first, they're just at step 1. They solely need basic physiological survival: food, water, shelter. Once they have a wage that covers that, they naturally move to step 2, craving safety and job security. When they finally feel secure, they look to step 3, seeking friends and a sense of teamwork. Next up is step 4, esteem needs. This is where they want status, power, and real recognition for their hard work. And finally, at the very peak, is step 5, self-actualization, which is reaching their absolute ultimate potential. The major takeaway here? You literally cannot motivate an employee with status if they're still terrified about how they're going to pay their rent. Next up, we've got a bit of a clash between two very different viewpoints, Frederick Taylor versus Frederick Hertzberg. Taylor's scientific theory was, well, kind of hypersimplistic. He did his research in factories and basically concluded that workers are motivated by one thing and one thing only: money. Pay them more, they produce more. Boom. But this heavily criticized approach completely ignores our modern human social needs. Hertzberg, on the other hand, brought a much more nuanced, modern view with his two-factor theory. He said, look, there are hygiene factors, like decent pay and safe working conditions. Having these isn't going to make workers jump for joy, but lacking them, that will definitely make them miserable. To get true, deep satisfaction, you actually need motivators, things like recognition, achievement, and growth. Basically, a good salary just prevents unhappiness, but recognition creates true motivation. Okay, Section 3, Financial Motivation Methods. Let's open up the cash and reward toolkit. So, knowing the theory is great and all, but how do employers actually put cash on the table to drive performance? Well, let's start with standard wages. The source reveals this really brilliant trade-off between time-based and piece rate wages. If you pay someone a time-based wage, like by the hour, they get predictable income. But because their pay isn't linked to their actual output, they might just work slower, which drops your productivity. Now, if you switch to a piece rate wage, where they get paid per unit they produce, output will absolutely skyrocket. The massive risk here, though, workers might rush, completely compromising the quality of your product just to make a quick buck. It's a real balancing act. But there's a whole world beyond just basic hourly wages. We've got other core financial rewards, and as our source highlights, every single one of them basically comes with its own warning label. Take a fixed monthly salary. It offers great predictability, but if you start forcing unpaid overtime, you're going to instantly demotivate your staff. A bonus for good performance? Fantastic motivator. But beware, it can breed some pretty toxic jealousy among the people who didn't get one. Commissions, where sales agents get paid per sale, aggressively drive revenue. But the dark side? It can accidentally incentivize highly unethical selling practices just so they can hit those targets. And finally, profit sharing. This gives workers a direct cut of the business's success, which builds tremendous loyalty and teamwork. But obviously, if the business has a bad year and there are literally no profits to share, that motivational effect just drops to zero. And we really can't talk about money without talking about fringe benefits. These are non-cash rewards, but make absolutely no mistake, they have immense financial value. We're talking about things like a company car, comprehensive health care, free daily meals, or sometimes even paying for an employee's kids' school fees. While you aren't physically handing them cash, you are saving them a fortune. The source notes that while these can be pretty costly to the employer, fringe benefits are an incredibly powerful magnet for attracting and retaining top-tier talent. That brings us to Section 4, non-financial motivation methods. This is all about building engagement completely beyond the paycheck. So how do we actually fulfill those higher-level needs from Maslow and Hertzberg without just throwing money at the problem? Well, let's make a really sharp distinction here between two concepts that get confused all the time. Job enrichment is vertical. It means giving an employee higher level, way more complex tasks. You're adding real challenge, requiring new skills, and basically prepping them for a future promotion. Job rotation, on the other hand, is horizontal. The tasks stay at the exact same skill level, but you swap the workers around. Why do this? Mainly to fight off the mind-numbing boredom of doing the exact same simple task every single day, just by adding a little bit of variety. Let's see how this builds into broader company culture. Things like training, promotion, and praise are fantastic non-financial tools, but again, management requires real strategic empathy. Training boosts skills and makes work way more fulfilling, but it's totally a double-edged sword. You might spend money training an employee only for a competitor to swoop in and poach them with a higher salary. Promotions offer a great career path, but you really have to manage the morale of the people who were passed over. Simple praise? Totally free and builds huge confidence. But if you constantly praise people without any practical backing, it stops feeling genuine and loses literally all its power. Even the classic Employee of the Month board gives great recognition, but it can actually create a highly toxic, overly competitive environment if you don't handle it carefully. Almost at the finish line here. Section 5, choosing the right strategy, or basically matching the method to the mission. With all these tools in our playbook, how does a business actually make a choice? The source makes it pretty clear. There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all solution here. Management has to tailor their approach based on the exact nature of the job, the working environment, and of course the budget. When we look at aligning job types with ideal rewards, we see that a factory worker doing manual labor usually responds best to piece rate wages to maximize their output, paired with job rotation to keep that assembly line boredom at bay. But office staff, they generally crave the stability of a salary and the growth potential of training. Sales teams absolutely thrive on the aggressive hunt for commissions and bonuses. And senior managers, you secure their long-term loyalty and align them with the overarching business objectives by offering rich fringe benefits and profit sharing. And just like that, we're at the end of our deep dive into the psychology of the modern workplace. It really makes you evaluate your own working life, doesn't it? I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on today. Which motivational theory or reward method actually resonates most with your own career ambitions? Are you driven by the absolute security of a fixed salary, the thrill of chasing a commission, or maybe the self-actualization of mastering a really complex new skill? Figuring that out is literally the first step to truly owning your professional journey. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.